alongside Rachel, David and Nick. Meet around this table for this summit, the first of what will be of many summits as we progress through this new era. We on this side are following through on what the British public voted for last year and the mission of this government to deliver security and renewal for our country and improve the lives of working people. In uncertain times and a new era for defence, security and trade, we will do that by strengthening our relationships with allies around the world, including, of course, with Europe. So that is what today is all about, moving on from stale old debates, looking forward, not backwards, focusing on what we can do together to deliver in the national interest. We are agreeing a new strategic partnership, fit for our times, providing real, tangible benefits on security, irregular migration, energy prices, agri-food, trade and more, bringing down bills, creating jobs and protecting our borders. We've delivered this progress through hard work together at every level. Our teams have identified the areas where we can make a real difference while protecting our sovereignty and independence. And I want to thank the negotiating teams on both sides. And I want to thank all of you for your engagement on this. The documents that we have before us today represent a strong package that will benefit all of our peoples. So this is an important moment. We must now move swiftly together on the detailed work to make these plans a reality. Thank you very much. And Antonio, if I could pass over to you for opening remarks.
Dear David, dear Keir, thank you very much for your warm welcome with Rachel, David and Nick. And for us, it is a great pleasure to be here. This is our first summit since Brexit, and the United Kingdom and the European Union are looking forward, not looking back. We are here to work on the new relationship, not to talk about the past one. The United Kingdom and the European Union are reconnecting with purpose. The security of our citizens, the prosperity of our economies, and the defense of peace in Europe and beyond. These three priorities that will guide our work today. Our shared values inspire us to address together our common challenges. We are stronger than we act together. To support Ukraine, to stabilize and strengthen our transatlantic alliance, to protect free trade, multilateralism, and an international rules-based order. Today, we are building a new partnership, a new strategic partnership, based on the renewed agenda for cooperation, which Ursula will develop on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much, Keir, for hosting us here for the first ever EU-UK summit. Indeed, this is a big day because we are now turning the page and opening a new chapter. A new chapter that is so important in these times because we see the rise of geopolitical tensions, but we are like-minded. We share the same values. We know that we work shoulder by shoulder, hand in hand, when it's really coming to crisis and difficult moments. So we should use this moment also with this first summit to develop a roadmap, which is on the table here. It's an amazing, comprehensive roadmap that we have, looking at security and defense together, but also looking at the whole economic cooperation that we have, and most importantly, people-to-people contact. So very much looking forward to the summit. Thank you very much again for hosting us here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
can start. Hello. Good morning, dear Prime Minister, dear Keir, dear Ursula, dear Ministers, dear High Representative, dear Maros. Let me begin by thanking Prime Minister Keir Starmer for hosting us here in London for what has been a timely and truly productive summit. A few months ago, Prime Minister, you spoke of your ambition to reset the relationship between the United Kingdom and the European Union. Today, I'm proud to say we together have delivered on that ambition. You succeeded, we all succeeded. The agreements we have reached today mark not just progress, but a new chapter in the relationship between the United Kingdom and the European Union, the start of a renewed and strengthened strategic partnership. Over the past months, we have worked tirelessly to rebuild trust. As we discussed during my visit to Downing Street in December, in an increasingly volatile world, deeper collaboration between like-minded partners, natural allies like us, is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Then back in February, I invited you to join the European Union 27 leaders at a retreat in Brussels to discuss defense matters. There I felt a new positive energy in our relationship. I saw the great potential of what we can accomplish together to make real, tangible progress for the people of the European Union and the United Kingdom. Since then, we have worked hand in hand to support Ukraine, to increase pressure on Russia, to stabilize and strengthen the transatlantic partnership, and to uphold international law and defending the United Nations Charter amid growing security threats. We have been proud of the fruits of that collective effort. A joint statement on cooperation on global issues, a security on defense partnership, and a common understanding and a renewed agenda for cooperation. These agreements represent more than just words on paper. They are a reflection of our shared commitments to security, to prosperity, to development, and to the people we serve on both sides of the Channel. Our relationship is grounded in shared values, mutual interests, and the simple fact of our geographical closeness. We are neighbors, allies, partners, and we are friends. Times are changing. The rules-based international order is under attack. Multilateralism is being tested, and the European Union and the United Kingdom are providers of global stability. We must be guardians of the rules-based global order. Europe faces gravest security threat in decades, provoked by Russia's brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. But both the United Kingdom and the European Union are united in one belief. We share a fundamental responsibility for the security of Europe. That is why we are committed to continue our efforts together to achieve a comprehensive, just and lasting peace in Ukraine. A peace that guarantees Ukraine's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. The ball is now in Russia's court. Together, we will intensify pressure on President Putin, including through a new package of sanctions, to bring him to the negotiation table. Russia must agree to an unconditional ceasefire. It must stop being a threat to Ukraine and to European security. On defense, our new partnership will bring deeper cooperation. It will strengthen Europe's contribution to NATO, and it will sharpen our focus on common strategic priorities. On trade, we are united in our commitment to economic stability. We both believe in free trade, fair, sustainable and open, as the engine of prosperity for our citizens and for the global economy. On migration, we will work together to reduce irregular flows and to strengthen cooperation with countries of origin and transit. And finally, today, we also address the situation in the Middle East. In particular, we addressed the tragic humanitarian crisis in Gaza, a tragedy where international law is being systematically violated and an entire population is subjected to disproportionate military force. There must be safe, swift, and unimpeded access to humanitarian aid. The remaining hostage must be unconditionally released, and the permanent ceasefire must be reached now. Our discussion reaffirmed our shared conviction that lasting peace and security in the Middle East can only be achieved through the implementation of the two-state solution. Prime Minister, dear Keir, your leadership has been instrumental in turning ambition into action. Today's agreements are a testament to your determination and to the new tone you have brought to our relationship. The United Kingdom and the European Union are stronger when we stand together for prosperity, for security, and for peace in Europe and beyond. This is the message that underpins our renewed cooperation. This is the direction we are taking together after this successful summit, which will be just the first of many, because, as we have agreed today, from now on, the European Union and the United Kingdom will meet every year. So, we see you last week in Brussels. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. Antonio, thank you for your words. But my dear Keir, this is a historic moment because it is the first ever EU-UK summit and it is a success. And this is also thanks to your leadership. And I really want to thank you for the leadership, because it's not only about the summit, a day where we are here now in London, but it's all these weeks and months of preparation and hard work to get to the excellent result that we have. We're turning a page. We're opening a new chapter in our unique relationship. This is the story of historical and natural partners standing side by side on the global stage, facing most of the same challenges, pursuing the same objectives, like-minded, sharing the same values, and thus we are looking for solutions that are beneficial for both our people and standing shoulder by shoulder when it comes to really getting to the solutions. I want to have a look at the common understanding, which is basically the roadmap that we have agreed on to follow now after this summit. First, we have concluded our security and defense partnership. This will boost our cooperation in security and defense initiatives. There are lots of topics covered, for example, on the defense industry, but also military mobility, peace building, crisis management, or the countering of hybrid threats, just to name a few. And this is the first step towards UK participation in Europe's defense investment program. We call it SAFE. It's 150 billion euros of loans for joint procurement, and this security and defense partnership opens the door towards the joint procurement. We need another second step, but this joint procurement we've discussed will increase our readiness, will close military gaps that we have, and will increase, that's of most importance, our interoperability when our armed forces are going on missions together. It will create new opportunities, of course, for our defense industries, and, as I said, open the option for stronger, more coordinated support also for Ukraine. That's important either through joint procurement of military capabilities that then are brought to Ukraine, or for direct investment in Ukraine's defense industry. This is against the backdrop that we stand united behind Ukraine's fight for survival, and that we are strongly committed to a full and unconditional ceasefire leading to a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. My second point is that I want to speak about what lies at the heart of our partnership, and that's the people. Millions of families and friendships are on both sides of the channel. I am thinking back of my times as a student here in London, and from that experience I know the first place abroad you go when you're a young person, it's an impression for life. You fall in love with the city and the country, and for the rest of your life you are the best ambassador for this country. Therefore, I'm so glad that we have agreed that we will have Erasmus Plus for young people, and that we will work towards a youth experience scheme. It's just about this experience. This will allow the next generation to once again live and study in each other's countries, and this will build friendships that will last a lifetime. Turning to what connects us further, that is the topic energy and joint climate goals. Today, we have decided to explore the UK participation in the EU's electricity market. It's good for the stability of energy flows. It is good for our common energy security, because we know that a bigger market will also be good for lowering the energy prices, and it will attract more private investment because of the regulatory stability and predictability that is there, to tap into the vast potential that the North Sea offers, specifically for renewable, cheap, and homegrown energy. In addition, we're both committed to leading by example on the path to net zero, and that's why we've also agreed to work towards linking our emission trading system. A larger integrated system is a big step forward in decarbonization and creates a level playing field. Today, we also decided to facilitate trade flows of agri-food products between us and to work towards a common sanitary and phytosanitary area. That means more certainty, more stability for farmers and food producers and fishermen and fisherwomen on both sides of the channel, safer food with greater trust from the consumers, and together with the Windsor framework, this will also bring additional benefits for Northern Ireland. It will further ease the movement of agri-food goods between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland will continue to enjoy dual access to both the EU single market and the UK internal market. And in addition, it's a lot what we have agreed on. In addition, we have reached an agreement on fisheries, ensuring reciprocal access to waters until 2038. This is so important for long-term stability and predictability. And we have agreed to preserve the historic tariff-free trade in steel products. Steel is a vital sector for both our industries, so this decision is great news. Finally, I'm coming to an end. On justice and migration, we're stepping up our cooperation to keep our citizens safe. That means more joint operational work, especially through Europol, and seamless exchange of information. Because as we all know, crime doesn't stop at borders, neither should our response. On illegal migration, we are joining forces to crack down on smugglers and traffickers. This is organized crime. Our goal is clear. We want to protect our borders and prevent further tragedies. We are also stepping up, therefore, our joint cooperation with third countries. As you know, we on the European Union side have made this one of our priorities, and we welcome that the UK is joining us in this effort. Dear Keir, what we have agreed today is historic. It will make a real difference to people in the UK and across our union. But the message we are sending to the world today is equally, if not more important. It is a message that at a time of global instability, and when our continent faces the greatest threat it has for generations, we in Europe stick together. A strong EU-UK relationship is of fundamental importance for that, for our security, for our prosperity, for our shared destiny on this continent. And this is what it's all about today. So I want to thank you for hosting us. It was a great summit, and thank you very much for your leadership.
Well, thank you, Ursula. Thank you, Antonio, for your words, and thank you for your leadership on this as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Britain is back on the world stage, working with our partners, doing deals that will grow our economy, and putting more money in the pockets of working people. In the last 2 weeks alone, we've delivered trade deals with India and the US. And that means jobs saved, jobs created, more growth, and a huge vote of confidence in this country. It shows that as global instability is rising, the decisions that we've taken to stabilise the economy and lead the way internationally have made Britain a place where people want to do business once again. And from that position of strength, today we have struck this landmark deal with the EU, a new partnership between an independent Britain and our allies in Europe. This is the first UK-EU summit. It marks a new era in our relationship. And this deal is a win-win. It delivers what the British public voted for last year. It gives us unprecedented access to the EU market, the best of any country outside of the EU or EFTA, all while sticking to the red lines in our manifesto about not rejoining the single market, the customs union, and no return to freedom of movement. So this deal is good for both sides. And let me set out why it is good for Britain. We've struck an SPS deal to make food and agricultural trade with the EU cheaper and easier, and that is slashing red tape and bureaucracy. And that means lower food prices at checkouts, more choice in our supermarkets, and of course more money in people's pockets. It will boost British exporters because once again, after a long absence, we'll be able to sell Great British burgers, shellfish and other products into the EU. We've also struck a new defence and security partnership to strengthen our cooperation and strengthen our security, which is vital in this dangerous new era. And it will open the door to working with the EU's new defence fund, providing new opportunities for our defence industry, supporting British jobs and livelihoods. We're also increasing our cooperation on emissions trading, saving UK businesses from having to pay £800 million in EU carbon taxes, once again supporting British businesses, backing British jobs. Next, we're increasing our cooperation on energy to drive down bills in the long term. The agreement negotiated by the last government left us with more expensive ways of working with our neighbours, despite being physically connected to the European grid by our underseas cables. Today's deal will see us work to bring these systems together again, benefiting bill payers and boosting our renewable industry in the North Sea. Today's deal is also good for British steel, protecting our steel exports from new EU tariffs, saving the industry £25 million every year. Another example of this government backing our steel sector to the hilt. We've reached a deal today on fish, protecting our access, rights and fishing areas, with no increase in the amount that EU vessels can catch in British waters. Our fishing industry will also benefit from the new SPS agreement, which slashes costs and red tape for our exports into the European market. And we already sell 70% of our seafood into that market. So that is really significant. It is also opening the gates to selling shellfish back into the EU. And I can also announce today that we're investing £360 million into our fishing industry to help them take advantage of this deal. We've acted today to strengthen our borders. The previous deal left a huge gap in our ability to work together to tackle illegal migration. So this deal closes that gap so we can work across migration routes to end the migration crisis and smash the criminal gangs. We're boosting our cooperation on law enforcement, combating terrorism and serious organised crime, with better sharing of intelligence and data, including facial imaging, for the first time. Today's deal will also help British holidaymakers, as we're confirming that they will be able to use e-gates when they travel to Europe, ending those huge queues at passport control. And I call on all EU members to help make this a reality without delay. Finally, we've agreed today to cooperate on a youth experience scheme to allow our young people to travel and work freely in Europe. And I'm clear this will come with all the appropriate time limits, caps and visa requirements. So it's a long list. It shows just how much we've achieved here today. Real benefits for the British people. Because it's time to look forward. It's time to move on from the stale old debates and political fights to focus on delivering common sense, practical solutions which get the best for the British people. We're ready to work with all our partners, wherever it means we can improve people's lives here at home. And that's what this deal is all about. Facing out to the world once again, in the great tradition of this nation, building the relationships we choose with the partners we choose, and closing deals in the national interest. Thank you. We'll now take some questions from the media, and I think I've got the list. I think we're going to go to the UK media first, and then to the European media. I've got Chris Mason, BBC first, please. Chris.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Chris Mason, BBC News. To be clear, Prime Minister, isn't the truth that you've sold out the fishermen for what you see as the greater good? And a question to the European Union, to President von der Leyen. This deal involves the UK becoming an EU rule taker, which some people here really don't like. Are you pleased to have the UK back within the EU's orbit? Thank you.
Chris, let me go first. Firstly, the focus, the driving principles of the comprehensive set of arrangements we've agreed today is about bills, it's about jobs, and it's about borders. They're the driving principles. And the SPS zone cuts away a huge amount of red tape for businesses and the way that we trade. It is incredibly important for fish because over 70% of our seafood goes into the European market. So for the first time under this arrangement, our fishing communities are able to sell more easily into the European market. As I say, 70% goes into that market. The length of time for the agreement provides the stability, because what would have happened next year is we would have come off the current arrangements, but then into year-on-year negotiations where nobody knows year-on-year where they stand. This gives stability in relation to that. It also opens the door for shellfish and the like to be sold back into the European market, which wasn't available before this deal. And of course, we've announced the £360 transformation fund. So what this goes with is that access on a permanent basis, the SPS agreement on a permanent basis for our fishermen and fisherwomen in our fishing communities into that market. Huge amount of their stock goes into this. So this is good for fishing.
Yes, on your question on rules. Because the United Kingdom is a sovereign country, it can take agreements like this one, develop agreements like this one. And of course, whenever we have an agreement among us, we define together what the rules are, how we will act together on a specific topic. So it shows the sovereignty of a country, by being able to take agreements like this one here today.
Thank you. Let me go to Robert Peston, ITV. Robert.
Hello, Prime Minister. Robert Peston, ITV. Prime Minister, isn't this almost the worst of possible worlds in the sense that you've laid yourself open to accusations of betrayal from Brexit supporters because we are again having rules set for food by Brussels, while you're adding back just a 20th of the GDP, the national income, that we lost when we left the European Union. And Madam President, if I may, today's framework, do you see it as an end, or do you see this as the beginning over coming years of greater integration, again, between the UK and the EU?
Well, Robert, let me be absolutely clear. This is the result of serious, pragmatic negotiations that are good for our country. And they're absolutely focused on delivery, in the same spirit, with the same mindset that we struck the deal with India and with the US. So this is very good for our country. It is hugely ambitious and comprehensive. The SPS zone, really important in terms of our market access, getting rid of the red tape and the bureaucracy that otherwise would have been there, hugely important as well to Northern Ireland. Then the security and defence partnership, in an era where we're forever saying quite rightly that it's an increasingly insecure world, to be able to strike that partnership so we can cooperate better together, invest in procurement better together, and open that door to the European funding is hugely important. The emissions trading is going to be for businesses extremely welcome, because otherwise they would be paying £800 million year on year in carbon taxes. On energy, we're making permanent the current chapter and looking to access to the EU electricity market. On British steel, quotas, specific country quotas for British steel, hugely important in the current environment. On fish, that access to the market. Shellfish being opened up, again, the Transformation Fund. E-gates, which for many people will be the first discernible difference in terms of travel, ending those queues. On law enforcement, where there wasn't really enough in the current deal, operational work together on institutions like Europol, sharing data, particularly facial mapping, irregular migration. We're pushing forward way beyond the TCA in terms of what we're going to do together, and the youth experience. So the breadth and comprehensiveness of this agreement shows that if you focus seriously and pragmatically on deliverables, you can make a real difference for our country. And just like India, just like the US, other governments have talked and talked and talked with great rhetoric about what they're going to achieve, and achieved little or nothing. We rolled up our sleeves, we've been serious and pragmatic, and we're delivering a very, very good deal for our country today.
Yes, on your question on the framework, I would say the common understanding, that is the document that shows that we're engaging in greater cooperation. And the Prime Minister has just described the topics. I mean, we are sharing the same interests. We're very close friends and allies, and if you look at the topic where we agree on a greater cooperation, for example, energy. We share the interest to lower the energy prices, and we share the interest to have to be more independent in producing energy, and to have more energy security and renewable energy. So that's one of the topics where we engage into. The emission trading system, fighting climate change, is the same interest we have on both sides. Security and defense, you just described it. It's a big topic where we can together really achieve big steps forward. Migration, health, hybrid threats. If you look at the roadmap that we have agreed on to develop, I mean, there's a lot of work still ahead of us. That's amazing to see. It's just a better cooperation and a closer cooperation that we are framing here.
Antonio.
Well, just read that we came looking forward, not looking back. This is not about the past, it's about the future. We don't talk about our previous relationship, but we are working on a new strategic relationship. This is not a U-turn, it's a new chapter, a new strategic partnership a new security and defense partnership based on the shared values and the shared challenges that we want to address together as we express in our joint statement.
Thank you. And can I come to Beth Rigby, Sky News?
Thank you, Prime Minister. Beth Rigby, Sky News. You staked your reputation on getting this deal, and to nail it down, you have given the European Union 12-year access to UK fishing waters, and you have agreed, having ruled it out last year, in principle to a youth mobility scheme. There are those today criticising you for backsliding on Brexit. Don't they have a point? And if I may, I need to ask you about what's happening in Gaza. The UN's aid chief has warned action from the UN Security Council is needed to, quote, prevent genocide in the Gaza Strip. Do you think it is genocide? And can you, in good conscience, stand there as a leader and say you have done all you can? And to the Commission President, it has been a difficult few years between the UK and the EU. You describe this deal as turning the page on those years. Many Britons will welcome this deal, but what is your message to those who voted Brexit in the UK and view these new arrangements with suspicion? Thank you.
Beth, this is a comprehensive agreement. It is balanced, reciprocal, and has huge benefits for the United Kingdom, based on our three principles, which is driving down bills, driving up jobs, and absolutely having control of our borders. And it delivers on all of those really important measures. And I think it's really significant, as you'll see, supermarkets are already coming out saying how much they support the deal, because they know what this means in terms of the SBS agreement for the prices in their supermarkets, which of course are the prices impacting on working people across the country. I think Salmon Scotland have come out already saying one of the huge exports from Scotland, how important it is from there. So I listen to the voices of those that are trading, the businesses across the country who are saying this is a good step forward over the voices of those from either side who've predicted what they would achieve and achieved very little. And most of the people complaining about the deal were people who are saying before they knew one single word of what it said that they were against it. So I look at how does this impact on working people? What are those supermarkets saying? What are those businesses saying? Because they're all welcoming it, and they're welcoming it for a reason. That's because it's a very, very good step in the right direction, a really important development. Let me separately address the question of Gaza, because it is a really serious, unacceptable, intolerable situation. And that's why we are working intensely to coordinate with other leaders how we respond to this, because it is intolerable, it is unacceptable, and we will continue to work in that way. Thank you very much. Beth.
Yes. So we are sovereign neighbours. We're friends, we're allies. And this is a new beginning for old friends. In this spirit, we have designed the roadmap that we are working on together. And I think it shows, the content shows that we are working towards a friendly cooperation that is of benefit for both sides of the channel. On Gaza, the humanitarian situation in Gaza is unacceptable. For 2 months now, no humanitarian supplies have entered Gaza. Aid must reach civilians in need immediately, and the blockade on Gaza needs to be lifted now, because humanitarian aid must never be politicized. And we are calling for a resumption of the ceasefire and the immediate release of the hostages so that a permanent end of the hostilities can be finally achieved. We are convinced that the only solution is the two-state solution. This needs, among others, also a functioning Palestinian Authority. We are strongly supporting and financing the Palestinian Authority, and we as a Commission will propose a multi-annual package now of 1.6 billion euros for the years 25, 26, 27 to support the Palestinian Authority.
Just about Gaza. Gaza. As the Prime Minister said, as Ursula said, is unacceptable. Israel must stop now immediately. The Hamas needs to release immediately all the hostage, and we need all together as international community to help the parts to build the two-state solution, the only one who can assure a lasting peace in the region.
Thank you very much. And Chris Hope from GB News, please.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Christopher Hope, GB News. As you know, Sir Keir Starmer, critics say your deal turns us into rule takers, not rule makers on standards. The Scottish Fishermen Association, or Federation, say your deal is a horror show, far worse than Boris Johnson's botched Brexit agreement. Are they right? Have you been stitched up like a kipper by the European Union? Ms von der Leyen, the Tories will say today they will reverse everything you've agreed today. What's your message to them? And Mr Costa, what are your plans for your future summits? Do you want to see the UK and re-enter the single market and the customs union in your lifetime?
Chris, let me again repeat the driving principles behind this deal, which are really important, which is the question, does it bring down bills? And I think it's really important to see the reaction of supermarkets, of Salmon Scotland, to begin to answer that question, because they are celebrating this because they know it will reduce prices. And we all know how hard the cost of living crisis is bearing down on working people, and therefore bringing down bills is hugely important. Does it boost jobs in security, in defence, steel, of course, and of course across all those areas affected by the SPS agreement, energy and electricity also within the scope of this. And then, of course, does it take vital measures to help protect our borders? And this goes beyond what we've been able to do before in answering those questions. So they are the principles that we set for this. I think it's important to remember in relation to fishing that next year, under the old arrangement, we didn't cease to have any EU fishing in our waters. We simply went to a year-on-year negotiation, which means there's no stability for anybody. And because of the SPS zone being permanent, that does mean for fishing communities that the fish can be sold into the European market. And when 72% of your fish is into the European market, that makes a material difference in terms of cutting the red tape and the bureaucracy. And of course, it unlocks some of the shellfish, etc., which couldn't be sold into the market at all until we made this arrangement. And I think it is important to emphasise again the £360 million transformation fund to fishing communities, which has never been put in place before. And that's why the comprehensive nature of this deal across so many strands is totally focused on that question. Does it bring down bills? Does it drive up jobs? And does it help us take control of our borders? And it answers all of those questions, which I think are fundamentally important for working people. Thank you.
So to your question, my answer to all would be that we are good neighbours. And it's reasonable for good neighbours to work together when they face challenges. That's what we're doing. And I think now our job is, we've described the roadmap. We have to finally negotiate all the different details in it. And then our job is to implement it and to show the positive results. People will see the positive results. You spoke about bringing the bills down, less red tape without any question, more prosperity and more predictability. So ask us again in a few years and then we can show exactly what we have delivered.
Well, thank you very much for your question. I had the privilege to work in the European Council with David Cameron, Theresa May, and Boris Johnson. I had the experience to negotiate with Cameron an agreement to avoid the Brexit, to negotiate with him the withdrawal agreement, the Windsor Agreement, the trade and cooperation agreement with him, with Theresa May, and finally with Boris Johnson. This is the past. Now, with Keir Starmer, we are turning the page, look at the future, and closing the gaps, but build on a new strategic partnership. Building and working on a new common understanding a very ambitious roadmap, not to return to the single market, not to return to the customs union, but to do better together as neighbors, partners, allies, and friends.
Thank you. I'm going to go now to European media. I've got Euractiv first, which is Owen Morgan, I think.
Hi, thank you, Prime Minister. Owen Morgan with Euractiv from Brussels. There's obviously plenty to dig into on the package announced today, but a question, if I may, on how this impacts the agreements that the EU and the UK already have. You'll be aware that the European Commission in December took the UK to court over its treatment of EU citizens living in the UK. That case concerns a number of potential breaches of the withdrawal agreement, the divorce deal.
Could you just speak up just a little bit?
I may. So the European Commission took the UK to court in December over its treatment of EU citizens living in the UK, and that concerns a number of potential breaches of the withdrawal agreement. Today's package once again talks about the full, timely and faithful implementation of those agreements. So to the Prime Minister, what assurances have you offered the EU as part of these talks on your implementation of the withdrawal agreement? To President Costa, are you satisfied with those assurances? And to President von der Leyen, does the Commission's legal action and court case still remain on the table? Thank you.
Let me be absolutely clear that this builds on the agreements we already have in place, which we respect and have agreed on the basis that will be fully implemented. And that's been the platform upon which we've been able to take this forward. And we've already, in relation to citizens' rights, etc., made advances even before today. But this is premised on the idea that this is a government that, when agreements are struck, respects those agreements and sticks to those agreements. And on that platform, we've been able to build so much of what we put before you today. Ursula, or Antonio.
Okay. I'm very satisfied because we now have a clear commitment to a fully and timely implementation of the previous, what is previously agreed, all these treaties. But now we have a roadmap to work together and to deliver to our citizens in the European Union and in the United Kingdom what is more important: safety, security and prosperity. And the Prime Minister translated very well what means prosperity. Prosperity means economic growth, jobs, lower inflation. And it's for this what we are working together, because together we are stronger and together we can deliver more to our citizens. Then I'm very satisfied and I'm looking forward for continuing to work together.
Thank you.
So, in former times we have agreed on a set of rules which are presently defining the framework in which we are, for example, dealing with the topic of free movement. Everyone on both sides has to abide to the rules. We have to implement these rules, and in some cases we are searching for legal clarity. This is a normal process that goes on not only on the topic of free movement, but on every topic where you have to implement rules. That's the state of play.
Thank you very much. I've got Mr. Valero from Bloomberg.
Good afternoon, Jorge Valero with Bloomberg. First, for you, Prime Minister, a couple of details on the agreement reads. What is the number of young people coming from the EU that you will consider acceptable to benefit from the new mobility scheme, and whether the EU students will pay the same fees as the UK students here? Secondly, for the EU side, whether you will wait to conclude the more detailed agreement for the UK firms to benefit from SAFE until you have an agreement reached on youth mobility and Erasmus. And very quickly, finally, President Costa, since you were referring to past agreements and your satisfaction, whether you are satisfied with the fact that there is no reference to Gibraltar, which is an important issue for your Iberian neighbours. Thank you.
Let me just, on the youth experience scheme, obviously this gives an opportunity for young people in the UK to work, travel, volunteer, au pair, you name it, in Europe, and the same the other way. it doesn't deal with university fees, just to deal with the particular question that you raised, so there's no change there. It is that experience. It is time limited. I mean, the numbers to be agreed, so it's not an uncapped scheme, and it'll be a visa scheme. So everything will now be done through mutual agreement as we go forward, but they're the principles behind the experience, which will give great opportunities for UK young people, and also great opportunities for member states' young people as well.
So 2 parts in your question, the second part first, because the Prime Minister just spoke about the youth experience and Erasmus+. We've very clearly said that we work towards both. What is, of course, now important to detail, to sort out all the details and to describe and then implement all the details. That is now the process that is starting, but the political will is very clearly stated in the paper. We want to work towards Erasmus+ and the youth experience scheme, which is good news for the young people. Your second question was on SAFE for the UK. Indeed, it's a 2-step approach towards SAFE. The first precondition is a security and defence partnership. That has been concluded today. And it opens the door for the UK to participate in the joint procurement under SAFE. Then there comes the second step that is necessary to negotiate a second agreement. And here we detail out, it's again a process of detailing out, budget contribution, reciprocal market access, and rules on security of supply. And this will give, that's important, in the end, the UK industrial participation. This is the goal that we have together.
Well, on Gibraltar, the Commission and the United Kingdom government are talking, negotiating. Maros Sefcovic and David Lammy is making a very good job. It's an ongoing job, work, and my feeling is we are not very close to conclude this work.
We are very close.
No, very? Not very fast. No, very fast, sorry.
An important correction. We're very close. Great. I've got ANP Lauren. Lauren.
Hello, Lauren Heermans from Dutch news agency ANP. This whole summit was about starting over and jump-starting a long-lasting relationship between the EU and UK. However, on fisheries, another temporary agreement has been made for a number of years that sort of seems arbitrary, 12 years. How is that signaling a robust and lasting relationship? Why not a permanent solution? And is a permanent solution still on the table for the upcoming talks, maybe next year?
In relation to fish, I think it is important that we've got the certainty in there, and I won't rehearse again what that means for UK fishing communities, the access to the market, particularly on the SPS, etc. But I think there's something bigger here which is important, because what we've achieved today is about looking forwards, not backwards. It's about not reopening all the old wounds. It's about turning a page, starting a new era, closer cooperation across a whole range of issues. And the mindset, the mood, the framing, the intent and ambition is every bit as important as the detail on the page in the very many aspects of this arrangement today. Because we jointly agreed at the beginning of this process that we wanted to look forwards, not backwards. And it's because of that we've been able to make such significant progress today. And it is from that we build forward going forward. And in an era where not many people challenge the proposition that defence and security is more uncertain than it's been for a long time, and we're entering a new era. In an era when not many people challenge the proposition that trade and the economy is entering a new era because of what's been happening in recent months. The significance of the EU and the UK coming together in this way over such a range of issues is not to be underestimated, and that's why it's genuinely a new chapter for our country, a new chapter for our relationships. And that's why I think it's such an important set of arrangements that we come to today. Thank you.
I think the most important part is that this agreement brings stability and predictability for fishermen and fisherwomen on both sides of the channel. You emphasized how important that is in these days. And indeed, I mean, till 2038, that's 12 years, that is a lot of predictability, stability to really also do the necessary investments. And it's finding good solutions we've been working on for a long time, but prolonging now the time where we can live with these good solutions.
Great. Just on this predictability and stability point, it's really important in the current environment we have predictability and stability because when there are uncertain times and instability, having that bedrock is hugely, hugely important. And that's why it's important to emphasise the permanent nature of the agreements that we've reached on SBS, on defence and security, etc. These are not time limited. These are permanent arrangements, deliberately so that we can be clear about the long-term future of this relationship. And then I've got Table Media, I think it is Stephen Israel. Stephen.
Yes, hello, Stephen Israel for Europe Table. I have a question. I mean, we hear a lot of announcements. I have a question on the timelines. When actually will these different agreements enter into force, or when citizens will feel the effects, for example, of the SPS agreement, of the e-gates, and then maybe for President von der Leyen on the safe regulation, how long do we think will it take to come to this agreement to connect the UK directly to these common projects, and how much the UK will have to contribute? I mean, financially, can you give a figure to us? And for President Costa, you mentioned Ukraine. If I'm not wrong, I think at this moment, or maybe in an hour, President Trump will call President Putin. What is your expectation, and what if he cannot convince Putin to agree to this unconditional ceasefire? Would you go ahead with more sanctions, and what kind of sanctions? Thank you.
Let me address the timelines to start with. Firstly, can I emphasise the speed with which we've got to this summit and the achievements at this summit, because we came into government just over 10 months ago. We started in earnest in the autumn of last year in terms of what we wanted to achieve from this summit, and therefore in 6 months or so we're able to agree across this broad range, comprehensive range of issues, and that is real progress at pace. In the past, I genuinely think it would have taken very much longer to reach any one of these strands in terms of agreement. And our message to our negotiating teams this morning, as we celebrated how far we'd come, was to go at pace to make good on these commitments now. And that's a joint instruction to our teams. So we want to see the benefits of these coming just as quickly as possible for all of our citizens. And so you can expect the same pace and intensity as we go forward on each of these strands going forward. Thank you.
I can continue here. The SAFE instrument has now just been approved by all the institutions, so it's ready to go. And therefore, we have to work hard that we have the second step also negotiated, and then we're going to be indeed ready to deliver. So it's a question of, I hope, only a few weeks, and then we should be done.
Achieve a just and lasting peace in Ukraine is a main priority for the European security. And for this is essential unconditional and immediately ceasefire from Russia. I wish all the best for this call between President Trump and President Putin. We have been very supportive of all President Trump's efforts to stop this war. With the strong leadership of Prime Minister Keir Starmer, built a coalition of the willing to ensure that a positive outcome of these efforts from President Trump ensure effectively a lasting peace in Ukraine and enough security measures. Then we are waiting with anxiety for the outcome of these talks, and I wish all the best for this talk, because from this talk depends a lot of the future of Ukraine and the people of Ukraine.
Thank you, Antonio. Thank you, Ursula. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.